Sonic made an excellent game. Fetch the finest wine we have.
Okay.
Well, I guess I can score 2 hat-tricks while I'm at it.
Yeah, do 3 Sonic games in a row and finish the Sonic Riders trilogy.
Roger? I swear, if you do anything to mess with that, I have questions!
And I have answers. So, my weirdly combed friend, Roger tells me you have something I need.
I sincerely doubt that.
Well, would you look at that?
All I want to do is just play Sonic Mania, that's all I want.
For him to do that for me, I must have left an impression.
Considering I don't even know your name, I doubt that.
You may call me Nautilex in the brief moments that remain to you.
Hang on. I just want to hear that again. Nautilex?
Yes, Nautilex.
That's not your name.
Yes, it is.
No!
Yes!
Well, in that case, hi Nautilex, my name is Mott, and this is Regor.
Roger? Take him to the dungeon where he can learn some respect. I mean, I could kill him right now, but... Now, I was going to let you choose your final game, but to be honest, I don't know why I have this.
Okay, thanks Nautilex. Bye Nautilex.
It's a cool name, for God's sake.
Well, I guess we're playing Splatterhouse. Why the fuck's he got a 360 in here?
Let's talk Splatterhouse. What was originally an arcade game released in the late 80s became a trilogy of console games throughout the 90s, known for its incredibly violent action and featuring stories full of dark twists and turns. Starring a man named Rick and the iconic Terror Mask, the series fell into obscurity and vanished with only minor references in other Namco games. It wasn't until 2010 that a remake appeared out of nowhere, and that's what we're looking at today.
Now, am I stupid for looking at a remake before the game it was based on? Oh yes.
So to really get into the mood of a game called Splatterhouse, the title screen is a gross looking man having a seizure with bloody body bits flying around. I've had worse welcomes, but before we start we have the option of choosing the mask. All 2 of them.
What's that? The rest are DLC?
And the game's opening is actually in media res, as it shows our protagonist Rick bleeding out in a pool of his own blood.
Well, there's a fine how do you do.
And while he slowly dies with such good animation, just look at that blood! He tries to cling onto the memories of his kidnapped girlfriend Jenny, but suddenly comes the booming voice of Jim Cummings.
Only thing you got left is your soul, and that belongs to me.
I accept Jim Cummings as my god. The Terror Mask tells Rick that Jen doesn't have to die, and Rick puts the mask on, healing him and turning him into the muscle-bound hero the fans know and love. And since Rick is voiced by Josh Keaton, I'm sure there's a spectacular Spider-Man joke about becoming an aggressive version of yourself after bonding with a foreign object in there somewhere. As we enter the first chapter, we hear the narrator is also Jim Cummings. Yeah, I can't blame them. If it was up to me, I'd have everyone voiced by Jim Cummings. You'd think following a well-animated FMV cutscene, the graphics would pale in comparison, but actually the in-game graphics are pretty good. But suddenly Rick's bones jut out of his body like he's high on Titan or something, which means it's time to fight, and oh my god, there's blood everywhere! Holy dooly, what a mess! Yeah, this is the combat of Splatterhouse, pummeling the shit out of enemies and drowning in their blood while grunge music blasts in the background. But just when you're getting into it, Rick is forced back to normal and the proper gameplay begins, which just begs the question, why did you start with the rarely used Sharpie combat then strip you of it all?
What is this? Metroid? Fucking Christ.
So how is the regular gameplay? Well, for starters, Rick feels actually really nice to control. He moves at a decent speed, feels tight and responsive when moving, his attacks are damn satisfying, and even kicks the frame rate's ass. Look, he's trying his best, alright? Shame they had to force in QuickTime events that initially seemed to go by really quickly and not give you that much time to figure out what the fuck that means. At least pulling them off results in some deeply satisfying and gory execution moves. Sure, look at that. But we run into the first problem with the game when I failed to remember that you can heal since there's no real indication you're dying. The health bar's tucked up here, but there's nothing else. The screen doesn't get more red or bloody or anything.
But death is just a slap on the wrist in this game since you can heal, so what's the big problem?
Oh my god, is the loading bad. Like, bad. Sure, the game only has to load when you die, but later down the line you will be dying a lot, so seeing this in quick succession becomes a real pain in the arse. But hey, at least Rick's arm can be ripped off and used as a weapon. That's a plus, right?
For a dick, you are such a pussy.
Wow, Winnie the Pooh just called me a pussy.
The first level ends with Rick confronting the mad Dr. West, who is the one responsible for Rick's mutilation and Jen's kidnapping.
I don't care for that. I care for that.
And despite taking a fucking knife to the head, Dr. West barely reacts, showing that there's a much more supernatural issue here. Rick continues to pursue West into the second level, which throws us into a side-scrolling segment, clearly trying to emulate the style of the original Splatterhouse. And I actually really enjoyed these segments. Maybe it's because the platforming in the 3D segments are questionable. And adding to the fan service is now we can use weapons, which, come on, it's gotta be the classic 2x4. Something I've taken notice of too is that the environments are consistent. Like, you know when you're back in West Mansion after exploring other levels. And with more environments to explore comes a vast variety of enemies, such as these really cool glow-in-the-dark ones.
Okay, a death trap. I know exactly what to do.
And now it's time for the first boss, which is...
No, 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 no. No! No!
Yeah, the boss is a creepy doll that transforms into that abomination. What the fuck? And in seriousness, it's a pretty fun and inventive boss. It's like a hardcore egg dragoon, which you take out by weakening its support and then button mashing your way into killing it. This boss does bring up one gripe though, and that is the soundtrack. The older Splatterhouse games have great soundtracks that fit the dire situation you're in, but here, all the music is forgettable grungy rock music that is lost in the over-the-top sound effects and dialogue. But who cares about that, because I'm fucking Super Rick now. Haha! Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. Boy, what a rush.
Ain't your mama, asshole.
Asshole! When Rick catches up with Dr. West this time, West, who I'm starting to realize looks a bit like Charles Dance, pulls Jen into a portal which Rick quickly follows, leading to... What's cool though is following chapters that end with Rick jumping into portals, we get to see flashbacks of the events leading up to Rick meeting the mask. While the story of the original Splatterhouse was more in the background, here we see the events unfold, and I applaud the game's stronger focus on story, and it's certainly engaging. We see much more of Rick and Jen's relationship, and making them likable means we're more invested in saving Jen in the first place. Also, actually seeing Dr. West for once gives the game a much more concrete antagonist. And the portal takes Rick to some kind of industrial ruin where the game's difficulty starts to get to you. Sword blade traps, these little fuckers that whittle you down, and who can forget platforming that relies on flashing objects that almost blend into the scenery. Boy, that sounds familiar. But fighting through these enemies and even this thing that looks like Doom's Eye on steroids, we learn where we are.
Or when we are.
As we find the Statue of Liberty, and the Terror Mask reveals that this is what will happen to the world after Dr. West succeeds with his plan. You maniac! The game also keeps you on your toes by throwing a giant mouth at you. Isn't that just a beautiful image?
We're not going in there, are we? Roger!
And what happens to be in the mouth? Only the best level in the game, the Meat Factory. Yeah, gory game with a level called that, what could go wrong? So, what makes this the best level? Well, opening with the tease of the Biggie Man from the original Splatterhouse helps, and having some fun mechanics like fighting in a giant microwave, impaling enemies on spike seas, and abusing the poor frame rate again adds to it. It's a fun pastime.
See, that's the kind of shit that got us an M rating.
You're lucky that you're so damn likable, Terror Mask. Just as likable as this shotgun. Woo, Nelly, is it satisfying? But not as satisfying as the boss. So Rick enters a lift, which plays the ending theme of the original Splatterhouse. You fan service spewing lovely game, you. But then... Biggie Man is back in a side-scrolling boss fight with shotgun versus chainsaws. Holy fuck!
Show him why we call it Splatterhouse.
The second phase goes 3D, and after a number of QuickTime events, Rick rips off one of Biggie Man's arms, and it's a chainsaw duel now! This is the peak of the game, and fan service done right. Hell, how does Rick finish Biggie Man off?
This girl of yours. You once told her you'd love her until the end of the world. It's time to prove it, Rick. The end of the world is coming.
Oh, it's the most beautiful love story ever told. If your partner hasn't ripped off the arm of a giant chainsaw man with the power of the demonic mask, done their ass.
Next level sucks though. Next level really sucks. Bunch of caves, bullshit platforming segment, pulling out giant eyeballs, which that's just gross, that's just nasty. And a puzzle that took me way longer than it should have. It even ends anticlimactically. You fight a giant snake and don't even kill it. The ground gives way during the fight and moves on to the next thing like, whoop, see ya. Maybe they knew they couldn't top the Biggie Man fight, so didn't even bother. The next level, however, takes us through Dr. West's lab, and this is where I realize a horrible truth. You remember the opening where the game threw you attacks you barely used? Turns out, you can use them, but the game doesn't tell you. Unless you die. At least the mask insults you when you die. That's nice of him. On the flip side, though, is that we do get some good conversations between Rick and the mask, involving moral dilemmas and the idea that the mask is just allowing Rick to vent his aggression rather than the mask just giving him all this power. It gives good insight into Rick's character. As we dive further into the lab, we see a giant Cthulhu-esque monster locked up, and...
It never comes up. At all. I thought it was going to be like the final boss or something, but no! Fuck it!
That's not as insane as the boss of the level though, which is a freaking giant electric gorilla.
Now that is a good band name.
And this boss is pretty fun. Outside of the unfair moments where he knocks you off the platform, that feeling of ripping off the pro thingies and beating it to death with it is just so satisfying. Even better since Rick just gets so into it.
Done it.
After confronting Dr. West, he teleports Rick away and is sent to a creepy theme park. Oh joy! And of course there are undead clown people. I mean, why wouldn't there be? And it's here that we finally get to finish off the snake from 2 levels ago, and it's beautifully violent.
Sure, it's like Christmas morning.
Rick and the mask also have much more conversation here, which actually proves interesting, especially when we learn that the mask can read Rick's mind and reveals to us that Rick cheated on Jen. I'm a sucker for stories diving into themes of morality, and the mask talk about how a good person can do one bad thing which can be applied vice versa is intriguing, given that we don't quite know where the mask's morality lies. Shame is ruined by this fucking segment! So the game throws a few waves of enemies at you in quick succession, which is when you start begging for blood to heal with. And then if you follow the path with a collectible on it, it takes you back to fight them again. Even worse, if you take the proper route and die on this finicky platforming bit, you have to do the whole segment again. All this effort just for a picture of Jen's boobs.
We got tits! We got tits! Wow!
You know what would be funny? If he made it as far as the butthole enemy.
Oh, Rick, don't put your fist up there!
There it is.
Oh no, what is this? No, I don't want to do that. Why? Well, anyway, the next level takes place in a house of mirrors, which is a pretty good location to trek through. We get puzzles based around finding the right path to take and fighting off mirror versions of Jen, but who else could be the boss of the fight but Mirror Rick? I should just kill myself for making that joke, shouldn't I? Complete with the mask from the original console version of Splatterhouse. God, I love this fan service. It's a fun fight that, while it's not too strenuous, does have the right amount of difficulty. Also, hearing Rick and the mask start to actually get on and make jokes is weirdly engaging. We can also thank this level for being short. After some levels that drag, this is a godsend. Still not sure why the place is called Arkham. That is really throwing me off. Ah, shit. We have to fight the snake again? Alright, let's just get this over with.
Huh. Wonder where I went.
That worm creature is trying to sneak by burrowing underground.
And remember how I liked the last level? This is where my fucking rage begins! These fucking red guys. You can't hit these guys. You can't do it because they explode. How in a fucking beat 'em up is this an acceptable idea? To get me to think? Is that what you want, Splatterhouse? You want me to think? I just shoved my fist up a monster's butthole. This is hardly the height of intellectual gaming. And it froze. I was so angry, the game froze. Right, come here, game. I'm gonna rip your fucking heart out.
Gooey and lifeless. That's all you are now.
But if you thought that was bullshit, if you really thought, hey, maybe that's as bad as it got, I present you with Phase 10. Rick is teleported to the days of witch burning where he sees Jen is next in line. He rushes to her rescue with a fucking time limit. 3 measly minutes to fight through enemies that swarm you. One fuck up and you just can't get any more hits in. You're done. But hey, at least with each pull-through you get a nice segment of falling through. And then back to the time fighting. Why did anyone think this was a good idea? It throws mini-bosses at you, overwhelming enemies, and then upon reaching Jen, doesn't tell you what to do while the timer still counts down. And this is on easy. I'm even too angry to make a fucking Wicker Man joke. Fuck off.
Fire them. Fire anyone that said yes to this. And I don't just mean their jobs. I mean literally out of a cannon into the sun.
At least the boss here does have his good moments. Just when Rick thinks Jen didn't make it, all while a sad version of the original game's ending theme plays, she turns into a monster and now Rick has to finish her off. I'm convinced this is a reference to the original's twist. But the twist here though is that Dr. West was watching the whole time. As it turns out, Rick had just killed his wife and this sparked West on his journey of vengeance.
Hear me out.
The next time jump finally gives us the full story, which I will relay to you now. Rick and Jen are visiting the mansion of Dr. West to interview him for their university paper. But upon arriving, Dr. West realizes that Jen is the spitting image of his deceased wife Lenora. He kidnaps Jen, and when Rick tries to defend her, monsters working for West attack him and leave him for dead. In doing so, Rick knocks open a casket containing the Terror Mask and the story begins. As for West's backstory, after his wife died, West's life took a dark turn until he was contacted by an unknown force stating that she doesn't have to die. West explored supernatural ways to resurrect Lenora and succeeded, except for when the town declared her a witch and left her to burn to death. Of course, this changed when Rick was sent back in time and ended up killing her demonic form.
Did you get all that? I made notes for you. I'm actually running an after-school session.
I am so glad they fleshed out the story from the original, but the first time through, boy did it go over my head. Also, going into the game I was worried the focus would be on the apocalypse and West's plan rather than Rick trying to save Jen. Luckily for the most part, it is Rick's perspective we see, and his bonding with the Terror Mask is definitely where I'm most invested.
But fuck you, because the game gets even harder. I didn't even know that was possible.
Rick enters the penultimate level where we finally catch up to Dr. West.
It's West. No shit.
I love the mask. So West decides to not only throw a snake at you, and not only to throw 2 snakes at you, but also 2 whip guys who basically prove that the QuickTime event system in this game is broken. Doesn't matter what you do, you're fucked. Just as fucked as a section involving 2 shoulder guys and 5 whip guys. Okay, just add more, that's fair. Who needs well-constructed difficulty when all you can do is just add enemies? Let's also add elements with no depth perception or indication to jump. That sounds fun. But hey now, Rick just caught a meteor and that is fucking awesome. Shame the cool moment is ruined by padding, and padding, and padding, and so much padding. And now it's time to come to the worst fucking room in the game. So we have an aided enemy here that protects all enemies and 5 whip guys in a cramped space while the floor starts collapsing. I was on this segment for what felt like an eternity. The times I've been knocked off, the times I've been swarmed and killed, the times I've accidentally run off, the times I just got pummeled. And when you win, the level keeps going.
Ah, the joy of screaming. Screaming? Wait, how far in is he? You! How far in the game is he?
Second last level.
Second last level. Roger, make yourself useful and dispose of him in the basement. Or do you need some motivation?
Well, fuck you.
No! Fuck you!
Dr. West, you have been on this planet for centuries, and that's the best insult you can come up with? Ugh.
Finally, we reached the final level, which sees Dr. West about to sacrifice Jen to the corrupted spirit monster thingies. I don't give a fuck. Rick appears, rips off Dr. West's arm, and tries to save Jen, but now we learn of the mask's true agenda. Turns out he had been using Rick to kill tens of thousands of monsters to summon the corrupted, just so he could kill it himself.
That is so petty and in character, I absolutely love it.
The corrupted have been abusing the mask for generations, so fair game to him for wanting to be that hilariously petty. Heck, I'd probably do the same in that situation too. But now we have to protect Jen while monsters head towards her. Jen? Hey Jen, honey, could you move please? Just scooch to the side or something. That'll make my life a whole lot easier, honey.
Oh yeah, here we go! Okay, let's try that again.
Oh, and after that quick time event, the final boss is surprisingly easy. Maybe it's just contrast to the previous levels, but it's kind of anticlimactic.
Or is it? Yeah, it probably is.
Upon defeating the corrupted, the souls burst out as Rick tries to remove the mask, who informs Rick that he can't until Jen is safe and sound, as was agreed.
Our deal was to save Jen, and she's safe now!
You sure our deal's over, Rico?
Rick, darling. It's good to be back.
Inspector Gadget, Nezura's Revenge, Deadly Creatures, Fantastic Four. I sure know how to pick some anticlimactic endings, don't I?
But to be completely fair, this is definitely a remake of Splatterhouse. Not a reboot or a reimagining, a remake. Which means the twist was kind of a foregone conclusion. But at least the original had an ending. This just stops. I was expecting a fight against Jen or Dr. West, but nope, cliffhanger that'll never be resolved. Yay!
Ah, you wanted a sequel, didn't you? Well, so did I. But you're not getting one.
And that brings us to the end of Splatterhouse. While the last few levels of the game brought out the deep dark rage inside of me, it shouldn't take away from the fact that I did generally enjoy this game for the most part. It's no masterpiece, but the fact that it exists at all is a blessing. I can only recommend it to the most die-hard Splatterhouse fans, but luckily for newbies, you can actually unlock the original Splatterhouse trilogy right here. That's all 4 Splatterhouse games on one disc. Oh my god, all that fan service is enough to make a man go.
And since I've now just wasted my time with that, I might want to break out of here. I knew I should have made Mewtwo get that wine.
That was a fun day, I'll tell you.
I can imagine. More wine?
It's alright, buddy. I get it. Hey, you know the arm was your own fault.
Well now, this scrawny guy wants a taste of me, huh?
Phrasing?
Maybe. Maybe not. They'll be like paper people. Get to it, man. Ooh, I've waited a long time for this. Oh, yes! This gonna be good. Oh. I thought I got rid of this. You know, I'm kind of glad you broke out. You get to see my plan unfold firsthand.
Trust me, it wasn't a conscious choice.
You know what's in here?
I don't freaking know, like, one puck of graffiti?
An amazing power source, strong enough to bring to life those who sleep within the earth.
If there's anything that powerful, we certainly haven't found that anti-human race. I mean, we can't even get a good Fantastic Four film. I mean, how hard should that be?
A power your kind created but never harnessed. A power so powerful.
Brachiosaurus!
The power of bad Sonic games.
What? What?
This will be cathartic.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Think about what you're doing. Ah,